Hello, welcome to the Gover Gym podcast. I'm Matt Charlton, sitting here with David Gover as ever. We have a guest this week who we will come to in a matter of minutes, but first let's do the parish news. David, how are you first?
I'm very well, thank you, Matthew.
Good,
how
good. Are you? I'm good. What's been going on this week? Any big events? You mentioned some climbing.
Yes, there's a really good new bouldering centre, the best I've ever been to down in Tunbridge Wells, in the industrial.
Oh, really? Okay.
So they've organised the trip, and it's just a fantastic setup down there. Really interesting bouldering and really professional as well.
And it's one of those exercises that you don't feel that you're doing exercise.
My life. Okay, so I was climbing just really competitively with a friend, and we're trying to do this route, and we're maybe 40 minutes just failing at this route, and it's a bit of it was kind of upside down. It was in a sort of cave, and so if you imagine I'm holding on and I'm trying to get my legs sort of up onto the holds as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the next day I felt like I'd just been punched continuously in the abdomen. It's the worst muscle soreness I've ever had.
But it's absolutely one of the ones that you don't really notice at the time, and then it sort of creeps up on you.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, at the time, I mean, I was aware that my forearms were fairly pumped up, and of course they hurt the next day. But it was the trunk was unbelievable.
Did you still work out the next day?
Did I work out the next day? I'm going to go with yes.
Okay. I
can't remember. I whinged about it, my muscle soreness, for a good solid week.
You're not a whinger usually, so it must have been quite serious.
Anyone that would listen.
Did anyone listen?
Well, no, sort of general mild disinterest in
just a general roll of the eyes and a walk away very slowly.
Get over yourself, David. No one cares.
Cool. So when's that coming up? When's that occurring?
I'm not sure. I think it's next month. But I'm excited to get all the gym characters down there, because imagine the competitiveness.
I'm trying to imagine Alex doing it, actually. That could be quite entertaining.
But the best thing is that I don't think Alex is going to be very good, and that is excellent.
There's the sound of someone throwing the glove down.
Yeah, only because Alex is 120 kilos of man. And just walking upstairs with 120 kilos, I'd imagine would be quite hard.
Right.
Trying to sort of...
That is the sound of the gauntlet being thrown down, Alex, if you're listening.
I mean, that will get the absolute... That is certain to get the best out of him.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. I think I'm definitely expecting some videos from that day.
Yes.
I really want some. Okay, let's get on to our main subject.
Right,
it's a bit of a change this week to our normal tone. So some of you listening, any gym regulars especially, but even if you've been watching the local news over the last year, you may have heard of Joe Sandford. Hello, Joe, who's in the studio with us today.
Hello.
Hi. Right? So what happened? I'll give a brief background and then feel free to interrupt, Joe, if I'm getting any of this wrong. But very briefly, Joe went on a trip to New Zealand in July last year.
I left in April.
Okay.
And the problem was in July.
And was it for a rugby type thing?
The rugby scholarship I was over there on.
Right.
Basically playing down in Taronga with Dave Bailey, basically playing full time.
So you're a bit of a rugby ace, basically, and you went over there.
I wouldn't say I'm an ace. Maybe a B. But,
okay. So this was in April, and everyone thought their 2016 was bad, but what happened in July? You had a car crash, basically.
Basically, yeah. There's a place at the top of New Zealand called Cape Reinga.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically where the sea meets the ocean. It's apparently really, really stunning, and I only know that now due to one of my friends going after I tried.
Right. And
on my way up there, I had a serious car crash, which I was pretty lucky to survive. There was a car going the other direction, and he looked in his rearview mirror as I came off the road. And if he hadn't rung it in at that time, then that would have been it. So
wow,
yeah, slightly lucky.
So you went into a coma after that?
I didn't go directly into it. I was put into an induced coma.
Oh, okay.
That lasted for about 5 days. I'm not sure if that's the exact time or not.
I won't pick you up on hours and minutes. Don't worry.
Thanks. And then, about 5 days, and then I was in like a reduced state of consciousness. So there was slight response to some things, but not very much.
The reduced state of consciousness. Do you actually remember anything from that? Do you recollect anything?
My last memory, and the only reason that I've actually remembered this is because I saw one of the boys I played against that day. I've just remembered the team I played at rugby that day, which was a team called Tapuna.
Mm.
And the only reason I know that is because I saw one of my friends, Ben Spear, the other day.
Right.
And he was playing for Tapuna. And yeah, he apart from that, that's my last memory until mid-August, when a bunch of the boys I was playing with came and visited me.
Wow. So you don't remember waking up? You don't remember sort of the initial?
Judging by the amount of pain I was in as of mid-August, no, I'm really glad I don't.
So talking of the pain, you had I've got here, you had a broken vertebrae, you had a broken pelvis, a ruptured spleen, and they didn't know how bad it would be when you woke up as well, brain damage wise.
I'm just going to correct you slightly.
Yeah, go for it. I
had a vertebrae split in half, and I broke another 4.
Well, that's just greedy.
Just wings off of them. Yeah, I know it is, but
Yeah.
I thought I might as well take it all and then not leave anything for anyone else.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, and then what else? Ripped my diaphragm in half, and my liver ended up underneath my right armpit.
That's just careless.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's probably the best travelled liver in the entire human body. And apart from that, yeah, the rest of it I'm just going to forget about.
Okay.
And yeah, the liver ending up there means my diaphragm was ripped in half. And yeah,
right. And there was head injury as well.
Yeah, and fortunately I was in New Zealand because they have the best head injury rehab facilities in the entire world.
Mm.
And if I hadn't been in New Zealand, I would not have made anywhere near the recovery I have done. At all, let alone as fast as I've made it either. But they have a system called ACC,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically, to access ACC, you need to have had an injury, but it means you can't then sue anyone.
Right.
That you forego the right to sue someone if you use the ACC.
I see. So you don't get access to it.
Thing. Yeah.
I see. So David, quickly coming to you. You knew Joe beforehand, I'm assuming.
Yes,
You played rugby and everything with him?
No, I never had the pleasure of playing rugby with Joe. It was way too good for me. But I know Joe because I was doing a lot of the strength and conditioning training for them for the Heath and Waldron Rugby Club, and he was captain of the second team, so he was always there showing up. And I will say now he was diligent, trained nice and hard. Because Joe is not the biggest guy on the rugby pitch, but he was in incredible shape.
We say low centre of gravity, don't we?
Right, yeah.
Always helps in
Squat.
rugby, I find. Yeah.
Yeah, but he trained super hard, really strong guy, which made it all the worse when we heard the horrendous news. And I will say this about Heath and Waldron Rugby Club is that the amount of support that everyone came together, and I don't know how much you know about what the guys did when you were there. Yeah, quite a lot. But it's a horrendous thing. But one of the best things to come of it was seeing the phenomenal support and how highly Joe was viewed in the rugby community.
Because I barely pay attention to local news, and it reached my ears what had happened, because it must have been on the regional news 4 or 5 times, and I think they spoke to Richard, didn't they, at the gym? Richard Paul.
That is a soundbite he's not happy with. He maintains he was pulled over and he said that he was the perfect raconteur for about 3 minutes, and in the middle somewhere he said something like Joe is old for his age. And was like, oh, please don't use that. Please don't use that. And of course, that is the only bit they used.
They interviewed my sister on regional news once, and she's called Laura, and they called her Nora Charlton on the strapline.
Jackpot.
Yeah, she was not happy.
I hope you've
about
never ever called it anything but Nora.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not. So I don't. Did they organise some sort of campaign or some sort of fundraising, the rugby club? Is that what happened? I can't remember.
There was numerous stuff, wasn't there? You can take this better than me, Joe. But there was tournament and all sorts.
Yeah,
did you see the footage of that, by the way?
I have done. They set up a rugby day for me, which, in fairness, I would have rather been playing in rather than missing.
Of course.
That's only because it looked really good fun. So basically they had a fundraising rugby day at the club where teams from East Grinstead, Uckfield, Crowborough and Heathfield all put out a side, and they had a bit of a tournament. There was I think 2 Heathfield teams and yeah, they everyone seemed to play in good spirit, and everyone seemed to get thoroughly drunk as well. So
that was
Well, that's
good.
half the
It's
training,
like,
right?
We're drinking for Joe. We're drinking for Joe. Come
Yeah.
on, guys, do your due diligence.
Like rugby people need encouragement to drink. I
In-
mean, my God.
yeah, and in fairness, I probably would have been drinking as hard, if not harder, than all of them. So,
Of course.
and that's just probably my attitude towards life. So,
Which is something that we're sort of dealing with now, Joe. So Joe's doing fantastically with his rehab, and he's very humble about it. But one of the things that's a no-no is drinking now, isn't it? Are you finding that tough? Being that prior to the injury, probably I'd say half of the times we met, you were lucid.
yeah, slightly. Sorry, that's an understatement. Slightly is very, very fast.
I suppose you have a good incentive not to drink, though, don't you? Really?
Yeah. So in this country, I've been told I can drink, but in New Zealand they said don't. And since they're the leading experts in brain injury, I'm going to listen to them. They said don't drink for 2 years. So
Right.
I've had 1 pint since at Twickenham at Christmas with my mates, and that was it.
And did you regret the pint?
Nope,
No.
definitely
It's
not.
the most delicious pint you've ever had.
Almost.
Did it feel like you had been hit with a hammer when you had it?
It felt like I'd like another 15 more hits in the head. Hammer.
So going back to New Zealand, what was the initial prognosis? Was it bleak? Was it good? Was it promising?
Bleak is a slight understatement.
Right.
The first doctor who saw my parents, I had the accident on the 3rd of July, and my parents got out there on the 5th, which was basically the quickest they could get out there in. And the first doctor they saw said he's going to die. Second one said he has a 5% chance of survival, but the chance of him being anywhere near as stable or as good as he was, basically 0. And then I found out since that there's a number of people that have a head injury like the one I've received, which is called a diffuse axonal injury.
That was on the tip of my tongue. Yeah. What was it again? Say it again.
Diffuse axonal injury.
Wow.
Which basically means that your brain's been shaken around so hard that you have damaged the axons in your brain, which are the wiring basically, and
The cognitive stuff,
Yeah.
basically.
yeah.
Right.
So either I've broken them or just damaged them to a point where they've needed to fix themselves so I can keep going. But once they're broken, they can't heal themselves, so your brain has to form new pathways for them to work.
I've heard that about in context of a stroke. Then when that bit of your brain goes, it doesn't come back, but your brain can sort of rethread and join the dots again in a different way. So that's basically what you've been doing, is it?
Pretty much, yeah.
So brain training as
Just-
well.
Yeah, just about 70 years before I'd like to have done it. But
Yeah, absolutely. So when did things take an upturn then? Because did it look quite bleak for a while, and then suddenly you sort of galvanised yourself? You said, "No, I'm not going to accept this." And
I can't really say that. I was aware that things were obviously quite a lot different from the moment that I remember it. And I had just remember going to rehab daily and wanting to basically leave New Zealand and come back home, but I'm really glad I didn't. I'm really glad I stayed, because obviously they're the best people to have looked after me. And apart from that, I just basically carried on smashing my rehab, because I was like, well, the harder I work now, the easier it's going to be in the long run for me.
yeah,
And that's probably why I'm as far along as I am.
from what you're telling me about the initial prognosis, it's miraculous that you're sitting here and talking. It sounds amazing. 5% chance to definitely he's going to die, which is insane. It's quite important, David, isn't it, when to get into rehab as quickly as you possibly can. I mean, I don't know how much experience you've got in this particular field of training.
More than I'd like to.
Right.
But yeah, absolutely. And just to reiterate what Joe said, I work quite closely with the physio team he had up there, a lovely girl called Lydia, and the notes they sent over were unbelievable. So to put it in context, it'll probably be about a page of A4, and I have no issues with the NHS or anything like that. This is not a politically charged statement. I'm just saying that they gave me a binder, but with maybe 30 pages of what he's done, progress,
Okay.
absolutely everything, and it made And every time I sent an email with a training program or what I thought what was the best way to go, they got back to me straight away, said, yes, maybe take this out, maybe put this in, and were helpful. And that was, they did not have to do that. Joe has been fully discharged, but they have always taken the time to email me back. And they have a invested interest in Joe's progress. They always ask how he's getting on and things like that, which is just amazing to work with.
Really gratifying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just going back to your previous experience, then, what is your experience? Where have you come from in this field?
So I have worked with stroke patients before, and people with head injuries, rehabbing and things, and it is every single case is completely unique. There's maybe some set rules, and it's just working out what is best for them, and working with all the people that are much cleverer than me, and making sure that I'm doing my job as well as possible.
So that there's some basic rules. What are the basics?
So the basic rules are we need to start reclaiming movement as fast as possible. You said something earlier about getting the work in early. Well, that's absolutely true, especially sort of neurologically. We want to get these pathways that have been damaged. Like if you imagine sort of signals going down them, we want to get those signals as clear as possible. It's difficult because it's uncomfortable for the patient.
Yeah,
if you like to do, and
it's breaking several barriers, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, a big thing about it is psychologically, sort of half your body's not working as well as the other half, and it's difficult to see because it's very apparent. And Joe's been an absolute sort of mentally and physically, he's come on leaps and bounds, and I'd say stubborn. Is that a fair word to use, Joe?
Understatement, but yeah.
Has the stubbornness in Joe increased? I mean, was he always a stubborn person? Did you know that if anyone was going to do it, Joe was going to do it?
Yeah, I've watched Joe play rugby enough, and I've trained him enough to know that he's got the minerals. But he's surprised me with how tough he is. Everything I ask him to do, he does to the best of his ability, and he keeps moving the goalposts, which is something we're trying to actually rein him in on for himself of what he wants to achieve. So it's we're now looking at actually sort of really strengthening up his body. We've reclaimed a huge amount of the movement. In fact, we're nearly completely symmetrical. I've seen loads of people that have not had car crashes that have got bigger asymmetries now than Joe. And he just wants to get stronger, bigger. There was talk of going back to rugby, which I think he's been talked out of, thank God. But,
no, just to go on to that one, I've basically taught myself out of it. Basically my one aim was to get back into rugby, and now I'm quite happy to coach. I'd rather coach than play.
Yeah, I'd stay out of the rucks if I were you. Yeah, because I mean, David was talking about frustration. Did you? I mean, stupid question probably, but I'm guessing you've encountered that a lot.
At the time, and even still now, it's basically if I stop, I don't push myself so hard. I just stop and think, oh yeah, that'll do. I'm happy with where I am now. Then I'm never going to be as good as I can be again. And I'd rather be the best I can be than just sat around going, oh yeah, that's fine, I'll just watch TV.
Brilliant. So it's really a question, I mean, putting it very crudely, of keeping your eyes on the prize, really, sort of keeping your eye on the end goal.
Yeah, very much so. It's basically a decision as to whether or not you're happy to just accept where you are, or whether or not you want to be better than you are.
Yeah, he's got tunnel vision on it. He wants to move, wants to be as squeeze every single bit out of this life. And Jesus Christ, is he not entitled to do that? And he's chasing it aggressively, and I love that. Gets me going.
Yeah. So you came back from New Zealand when?
I was told I wouldn't leave New Zealand in 2016, and I got back mid-October, the week after.
You didn't miss much in Britain, to be honest. You should have stayed away for another couple of months at least. At that point, did the Gover gym take over? Did you sort of know that that's what you were going into? Or were you still thinking, how is this going to be continued in Britain?
I actually had a chat with my physiotherapist over in New Zealand. She said to me, what do you want to do physically? She said, because I actually think you're too good to go back and work with a physio in a neuro rehab centre, because I think you're so advanced now that you're actually able to go back into a gym properly. So I was like, well, there's a group of people that would probably help me out. And I said Gover's, and I gave her Dave's email address and Ollie Stable's email address, and she got in touch with the pair of them.
So that's when Gover Gym came in. And was this? I mean, both a terrifying and exciting prospect. I'm assuming, David.
It was, yeah, it was scary because I was friends with Joe first. It made it. I was really 100% invested in it, and I wanted to help. And if I could help, I'd do everything I could do. And the whole team were really on board with that, which was great. But I was apprehensive about seeing Joe for the first time, to see his capabilities, and things. And I was so happy that day. I think I didn't want to say anything. And at the end of our first session, I couldn't help myself. Like, Joe, you are moving about 3 times better than I thought you would be. I mean, he was completely coherent. He was, the Joe that I remember, which was such a great moment. Really was.
So you had these basic things that you said that it can generally works with everyone, but you had the extra notes from the physiotherapists in New Zealand as well. So you had a plan all mapped out. You started in October, is that right? You came straight into it.
I started at Gover's in October. They basically worked on what I was working on in New Zealand, which was a weakness on my right side, which I think's almost there now, isn't it? So
yeah, I think Joe was throwing was it 12 and a half kilos last time, shoulder press.
Nice.
12 and a half kilo dumbbell press, like complete. But that's not the impressive thing. It was completely symmetrical with full range of movement.
And as you said, a lot of people at the gym don't.
Yeah, a lot of people at the gym can't do that. So I mean it's just so remarkable. It's so remarkable. I mean, it couldn't get his hand even, couldn't do that without any weight.
With the 12.5 kilo shoulder press, it's actually pretty impressive. And what makes it even more impressive is my first physical rehab session in New Zealand on, I think it was either the 8th or the 10th of August. I couldn't even pick a tea towel up.
Wow.
I couldn't straighten my arm and keep it and straighten it out to perpendicular with my shoulder. Couldn't do it.
So from a tea towel to 12 kilos.
It's not bad.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
That's a strap line there.
Yeah.
Tea towel to 12 and a half kilos. My man. I've got a question, Joe.
Go on then.
Has your outlook changed at all on how you approach things in every day-to-day life, or not really?
The main things that have changed is my appreciation for my friends and family. From the 3rd of July until I think the 3rd of October, my mum was basically with me every single day in New Zealand. Sorry, the 5th of July, not 3rd. And so, my appreciation for my family is quite high. And my appreciation for my friends is obviously pretty massive, because I'm not getting any funding from the government for my rehab in the UK at all. Basically, the fundraising that has been done for me is paying for my rehab, which is incredible.
I suppose you don't know how valued you are until something like this happens, because people just don't go, "Hey man, I really value you as a friend." Unfortunately, it takes something like this to happen.
Way too British for that. Can you imagine going to your mate? By the way, Hayden, I really, really like you and respect you.
That sounds quite sinister as well, the way you're saying it.
Yeah.
Hey Hayden, I really, really like you.
I think you're just great. He'd be like, "All right, dickhead."
Exactly. But you sounded like quite a driven individual before. Are you any more driven than you were before? Has that gone up even one step?
You'd probably have to ask other people.
Well, I'll ask another person then. David, has the drive increased, or is it just come to the fore?
No, it's always been there. Like I say, when he was training pre-accident, he was super driven, and he's still exactly that now. And that's why we're incredibly proud of him, and really happy that he's retained those traits.
Anyone who's listening, obviously, it's a unique thing that's happened to you. But what can people take from this, either in life or training wise? What can people take?
Can people take from it? At the start of the actual thing, I was really frustrated and actually quite angry at the entire world. Just because it was like, why has this happened to me? I just really felt frustrated with what was going on. Didn't really want to talk about the entire thing at all. But I kind of grew into talking about it quite quick.
Did you find it quite therapeutic when you did finally start talking about it? Did you find it therapeutic, or did you just still find it difficult?
I don't find it difficult, but I didn't really find it therapeutic, because I don't remember anything apart from the rugby team that I played in on the actual day of the accident, which I've only remembered because I saw one of my friends. I don't actually remember anything apart from, well, until mid-August, which I'm really glad of, because pain. My sister, last time she saw me was 2 or 3 days after my birthday in July, and they've just cut through my side and moved my liver back down from underneath my armpit, and sewed my diaphragm back together.
Oh my God.
So, and I was writhing around in agony apparently, which is unsurprising, and I'm really glad I can't remember anything apart from that.
Yeah, I think the word "apparently" is the key word there. It's good that that's not an actual vivid memory for you.
Yeah. And apart from that, I'm just really glad that. Well, I was really frustrated and angry every time I had to talk about it or think about it at the start, but frustration and anger is still there about the entire situation. But it's much better than the alternative, isn't it?
Absolutely. It sounds like the psychological was maybe more difficult than the physical, or is that...
Psychological is a lot harder than the physical stuff, because physically, every single gym session and every single time I'm actually working, I'm pushing myself as hard as I was the session before / making gains.
And I'm assuming did you have a counsellor and for the psychological stuff as well? Do you still have one?
I had one in New Zealand, yeah, and I still have one in the UK. A bloke called Freddie. Yeah, he's doing pretty much he's doing wonders with me as well. But the cognitive stuff I feel is harder than the physical stuff, because it's harder to see benefits or gains. Or not. I need to stop saying the word gains. It's just harder to see the work. It's just harder to see the progression.
And you're fighting a battle on two fronts, really, the physical and the mental. It must be absolutely exhausting. How do you fold the mental stuff into the physical, David? What's the technique behind that?
Well, firstly, I am not qualified to help with the mental stuff. That's a really tricky question, Matthew.
Thanks. I'm here to trip you up, Gover.
Yeah. No. Well, with Joe specifically, it was actually more a case of trying to make him to manage his expectations, which it turns out we didn't need to do because he blew them out of the water. But to start with, he came in expecting, I want to move like this and this, and that was tough, being like, well, okay, well, let's just week to week just try and make incremental progress. And he was on board with that, but then it just so happened that the way he pushed himself and the way his body responded was above and beyond.
It turns out you're managing your own expectations.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So it's a question of keeping them on the road as well. The physical stuff he said was not easy, but you know what I mean. It came.
The reason it's what Joe was saying is it's complete. It's what we're doing is tangible. So there's he can get his shoulder to say 100 degrees in front of him, right, and now we're right back to 180 degrees.
Or you could just say, I was lifting a T-town, now I'm lifting 12 kilos.
Yeah,
I mean, that's an easy line to draw.
But for everything, we're like, right, you were here, now you're here. That's good. And it's not subjective.
And there's so many shades of grey with the psychological.
Yeah, I should imagine it's
How do you is there a sort of measure, or is it just a check-in, or do you have to fill in a form every now and then saying 1 to 10 I'm feeling this?
I wish it was as simple as that. In February I started an assessment with my neuropsychologist about whether or not it's basically like an assessment on my brain to see where I was finding weaknesses still, or where I should be in comparison to other people at my age, and a lot of other things like that. And
I think I don't think we've actually said yet. You're 22, is that right? Okay. I don't think we've actually clarified your age yet. So
no. He's a whippersnapper. By the way, Joe is it as of last 3 weeks ago? You back to work?
I started working again 1 day a week as of about the turn of the year. No, just before actually. And now I'm back to working. Well, I'm working 4 days a week.
What is it you do, Joe? Sorry.
I import fruit and veg into the UK and then sell it to wholesalers / caterers.
Well, that's some early starts right there. That's some early starts.
Well, not as early as the people I serve. They start work at 2:00 in the morning, most of them.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
And at least I start work at about 6. So.
Right. Well, we've got to wrap this up now, Joe. But it's been genuine. I'm a very cynical old bastard, as David will attest, but it's been genuinely inspiring talking to you, and I wish you the best of luck for the rest of your rehab and the future and all that sort of stuff.
Thank you very much.
Any final words? Anything you want to say that we haven't brought up yet?
The only thing that I might say is that if you have any spare time, well, not even if you don't have any spare time, but make time for your mates, because they're actually more important than you have any right to think. They're actually incredible people. They may not be, but I think most of your friends will be lovely people, and they'll probably be incredible. So I have a lot more time for pretty much all of my friends now than I think I respect them more now than I did before, I think. Or
You see the value.
Yeah, I value them a lot more.
Great.
That's a better way of putting it.
Okay, cheers, Joe. David, any final words before we go?
Joe said it all. I mean,
think he has.
He's an amazing man.
And so eloquent as well. I mean, I don't want that to sound patronising, but you're more eloquent than Ollie, for instance.
He said it.
No, that's not hard though, is it?
That's
just
true.
Education.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we'll be back next week. We don't know what we're doing yet, but we will be back next week. Joe, thank you again. David, thank you for coming in,
Thank
as
you.
ever.
Thank you for having us.
And say bye, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.